BTK Killer. Does that ring a bell? Bind, torture, kill is what BTK stands for. So this is a serial killer out of Kansas. And he started back in the 70s, and he got away with it as either 19 years or 29 years. I must tell you, I always get that wrong, but I get that wrong because I went to two different places, and I was reading about him last night. And one said 19 and one said 29. The point is, got away for a meaningful period of time. You might think, well, how is that possible? This guy must be a really good criminal. Well, small town police work, and he was the most unlikely guy that you would suspect. Neighborhood, wife at home, daughter. I think 2 daughters. And then he was a member of the church. And he was not only a member of the church, he was very active. He wasn't a leader like a cult leader. I mean, this was a regular church, but he was active. Never missed on Sundays, took the family involved as well. He volunteered and did like patrolman type work, like night watch. But he would also use those shifts, if you will, for what's known as trolling. He would troll areas to try to identify victims. Once he identifies the victims, he then moves into the stalking stage. Where did I get those exact words? From him. It's one of these guys. If you haven't seen him, he's one of these guys that's very chilling, okay? Because they will speak to you so candidly about what they did. Once they're caught and they're apprehended, they will speak to it almost with a glee. And they will come down to details that you, as the interrogator, would not even think to ask for. Much like a guy later in life who is reliving high school football games, where it brings him a joy, it brings him a pride. He wants to talk about it. He loves having those memories. And that is what BTK did. He had made a full confession. He was caught. He made a full confession to a ridiculously high amount of murders. And he was known to bind them, torture them, then kill them. I know this is strong language, but BTK, this is all over the news right now. Now, I'm giving you, this starts back in the 70s, and that's where I'm starting with this story. So fast forward, whether it was the 19 years or the 29 years, based on the source that you went to, and they finally get him. Now, before they got him, they knew it was him. They knew it was him in terms of the evidence and everything pointed to him, but then when they went and surveilled him, the police actually turned to each other and go, oh, it can't be him. Even though they had the evidence, even though it was right in front of them, they literally said, oh, it can't be him, and they went the other way. For meaningful amounts of times. I'm talking about years and years, a half a decade, maybe even a full decade. Even though they had it, oh, it can't be him. I must tell you, he looked like a very regular guy. And if you go and you learn about him and you read about him, and you check the financials, a lot of crimes, there's like some kind of financial element. There was nothing like that. There was nothing weird about this guy. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I mean, he really looked the part. And when I started down this rabbit hole, he had gone before the judge. They've already got a deal. He's made a full confession, and he's in before the judge. The judge is going to sentence him to death. But the judge says to him, I know you've made a confession. I know what you're here for. But I got to live with this decision as much as you're going to die with this decision. I need to hear myself from you. And let's start at the beginning. Tell me about the first one ever. Tell me about the Williamson family. So when BTK goes through this, it is so calm. I'm trying to act him out right now. And if you see him in court, right, he's a little bit balding. He's got a real well-groomed goatee, wears glasses, and he kind of looks down over. He's not a small man, but he's not intimidating. I mean, he's probably over 6 feet tall, but he's not an intimidating case. He's got a little frumpy, got on a very nice suit in court, speaks with a very nice demeanor. And he says that I came to the back door. This is the very first family he's ever done. Came to the back door. One of the children let me in. So I just followed them into the kitchen where the rest of the family was having dinner. Real calm. Says I present them with a revolver, and I let them know I'm a fugitive. And he wasn't at this time. He'd never done a crime. This is his first one ever. This is just his story to the family. I'm a fugitive. I'm on the run. So I need your car, and I'm also going to need some food. But he did this as a way of getting them to say, okay, let's do what he needs to do, and he'll be on his way. So he brings the family of 4 into the living room, and he makes the wife, and the wife's got to tie everybody. So she ties the husband, she ties the 2 kids, and he ties her up. Well, the husband makes a claim to BTK. He says, hey, I was in a car wreck about a week ago. My rib hurts. These are too tight, I'm uncomfortable. So BTK loosens them. And then a little bit of time goes by and the husband says it again. Hey, I'm not comfortable. Okay, with his rib. So he loosens it again. And then ultimately he goes and gets a big pillow from the couch and puts it down so he can put him on his side. And this is him telling the story, right? This is very chilling. He says, so I put him on the side so he can be more comfortable. That's a quote. So he can be more comfortable. And once he looked like he was more comfortable so that rib wasn't bothering him, that's when I put the bag over his head and tied it off with the cords. And you're just, oh my God, I've never heard anybody speak like this, right? And that isn't quite literal. There's a guy called the Iceman who did that. And I only learned about the Iceman because Stone Cold Steve Austin adopted his character over this serial killer. All right. So BTK is just telling the story. And by the way, he then goes in to the children. I mean, this is as horrific as it gets, but he speaks to you as calmly as can be, and he gives details. Lots of them. Ones that they don't even have. He's enjoying going through this, and he moves right on to the next case, and he moves right on to the next one. And he explains to the judge, because the judge even says at one point, what does trolling mean? He says, well, Your Honor, a serial killer has 4 stages, and the first stage is called trolling. That's where you surveil an area until you identify a victim. Once you identify the victim, you're no longer looking at an area, you're just following that victim. That's called stalking. I mean, he goes through these 4 stages. This is chilling stuff. And see, when you even go to the king himself, Manson, you can't get an answer out of Manson. Like, Manson never confessed to anything. Hey, why did you do this? What was your problem with Miss Tate? Oh, man, it was the music, man. I'm the king of the underworld, man. It speaks me in the music. I'm the god. And you're like, start doing the air drums, and he'll give you something that's really entertaining to watch, but he'll never answer your question. He will never confess to anything. It's relevant that you understand that concept because BTK confessed to it all, and therefore you believe him. You now believe him. But one of the pieces, and I will just tell you, it's an amateur sleuth. When this all came down, it was like 2004, 2009. My dates aren't totally right when he first got caught, but it was in my adult life. And one of the things that happened as he told the story is he used to be like a traveling salesman. He had to leave town for work. And these crimes, these BTKs are going on in his area, and his wife would tell him when he left, like, hey, honey, I sure hope you get back soon. I don't like being here without you with this guy out here. And BTK would always assure his wife, you have nothing to worry about. Now, they use that almost as a comedic relief. Like when BTK told it, he almost said it for like a comedic relief. But I do remember, even when I heard about this originally, thinking, wait a minute. If you've got a serial killer and he's leaving town, we need to find out where he went and when. And then we need to go work with that police department and just see if there's any cold case files that match this same description. I remember thinking that. But he was so candid and so open that when they finally get to the final point of, is there anything else that we don't know about? And he says, no, we believe it, and we close the book. Now, fast forward to last week, 5 days ago. They're going through his house, and I don't know who they are. My assumption in this is his wife and daughter must have sold it and moved, and somebody else has moved in, and maybe even they sold it, and this is yet another person. I don't know who they are, but they find within the house 2 trapdoors. So they call the police, right? They know the history of the house. They call the police come over, they go into these trapdoors. Within the trapdoors, there's a journal that's making confessions. There's also what's known as trophies. And within those trophies was a purple shirt. Now, within the journal, it sounds as though he whacked a gal out in Oklahoma. And then you find the purple shirt. Well, there is a cold case file of a girl from Oklahoma this exact same time that he made the journal entry, who, by the way, his last known photo was a Polaroid wearing the same purple shirt. So now you start to come into a question of, there are more. How many more? Like, as bad as he was as a serial killer, as terrible as that bind, torture, kill is what they name a guy, they did think he was honest. They thought they had it all. And now it's looking very much like they don't. So if they don't, and if the girl in Oklahoma is true, how many other ones were bind, tortured, and killed? How many other ones around the nation, around the places he tried? I don't have the answers for you right now. And I don't even share this with you to entertain you, by the way. I just shared all that I did almost as a counseling session. I watched this. I went down this rabbit hole. When I clicked on this piece, I did not know what I was getting ready to see. It was recommended to me by YouTube. And I had just watched a piece on Sammy the Bull. I don't know how YouTube thought Sammy the Bull and the BTK were quite tied together, but this is what they suggest for me. I click on it and I was enthralled by it, but it was very chilling. This was very troubling stuff, and it also looks like a case that isn't over. And I really, truly do recall at the time when he tried to make the joke, this is like 2004, when he tried to make the joke about his wife, saying, honey, you have nothing to worry about. I remember thinking, if you're traveling and you're around the nation, shouldn't we be looking into when and where, and if there's any cold case crimes, particularly that make this description? Very troubling stuff. If you want to go on YouTube or the internet, you want to Google this, let me caution you in advance.